Welcome to Underworld UK, where Britain's darkest stories are brought to light. From the gritty streets of gangland London, Liverpool, Manchester and Birmingham, from Curtis Warren to the Cray twins to county lines and modern-day true crime, we cover everything. Bringing you new videos every week. Subscribe so that you'll be notified when the next video is put out.
Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please could you give us a subscribe, give this video a like if you enjoy it, and leave a comment in the comment section. It really helps to grow our channel, and that's what we're really trying to do at the moment. So thank you so much for your support. Today we're looking at Lee Amos. Lee Amos was feared by his foes, the police and many others for his heinous crimes. To his family, he was a caring father and a son trying to make the best of his time behind bars. Many have written about big-time criminals that are familiar with the Gooch gang boss Amos, and all the terrible things he did when he was a younger man, helping Manchester earn its unwanted nickname Gunchester in the 2000s. He thought he was untouchable. Yet, the picture painted of him this week during an inquest into his death from a heart attack at HMP Oakwood, a privately operated Cat C prison in Staffordshire. On the 22nd of April last year, was a sickly man whose loved ones wanted answers about the care he received behind bars. Amos had Crohn's disease. A fellow inmate took hold of his hand and assured him that everything was going to be alright, while he sweated and turned blue, clutching his chest in agony in the cell 201 on A wing. It wasn't alright. Amos had an undiagnosed heart condition. He died of an heart attack, just as his father, who hadn't taken much of a role in his early upbringing, had done 4 years earlier. He never actually became the aged version of himself that police mocked up for a billboard when he and an associate were jailed in 2009 for a drive-by shooting 2 years earlier. Mourners dived for cover when Amos and 4 other Gooch gang members opened fire, killing Tyrone Gilbert at age 24. Amos had also been suspected of the murder of a man for whom the wake was being held, but the jury which convicted him of Mr Gilbert's murder couldn't reach a verdict. The judge ordered that the charge lie on file. Known by the nickname Cabo, Amos was ordered to serve life with a minimum term of 35 years. Fellow Gooch gang boss Carl Piggy Joyce was also jailed for Mr Gilbert's murder and ordered to serve a minimum of 39 years. 6 former Gooch members testified against the pair, who were also convicted of attempted murder and possession of firearms. 6 weeks prior to Mr Gilbert's funeral, Joyce executed Mr Chin, aged 23, in a daylight ambush. Joyce pulled up in an Audi and peppered Mr Chin's car with 9mm bullets from a Russian loaded pistol. Mr Chin was killed because Amos and Joyce believed he was a member of the Longsight crew. The artificially aged faces of the deadly gang members were famously plastered all over Manchester. A giant billboard at the side of Princess Parkway appeared along with the words, "Aging behind bars." Police said at the time, "There are no untouchables." Detectives also suspected Amos was involved in the fatal shooting of Jesse James, aged 15, on the evening of September the 8th, 2006, in Moss Side, even if he didn't pull the trigger. A senior officer told the Manchester Evening News shortly after Amos' death last year. His name was in the mix, there's no doubt about that. But in the end, there was no evidence that he pulled the trigger. But for me, there were other stronger candidates, but his name was certainly linked. None of Amos's crimes were mentioned at Stoke-on-Trent and North Staffordshire Coroner's Court on Wednesday, August the 20th. Only that he was a serving prisoner who was being treated for Crohn's disease, a chronic bowel disease which can cause severe pain. Amos's brother Joseph, in a statement read at the inquest, said his sibling, the eldest of four, was born at North Manchester General Hospital in February 1976, but he grew up in Longside and Moss Side in South Manchester. He was raised by his mother, as his Nigerian father did not have contact with the family, he said. He mentioned the murder of their brother, Stephen Amos, in the year 2002. He was shot outside Bexbar in Ashton-under-Lyne while Amos was in prison for another offence, possessing a stash of guns. Dead set on revenge, Joyce and Amos bided their time in jail. When they were finally released on parole, there was a dramatic escalation in gun crime, which ended in 2 deadly drive-by shootings. Amos started working at a trainer stall on the market until he was aged about 18, but then was employed, said Joseph, his brother. He was always trustworthy and his family had always been supportive of him, while he offered his assistance when needed, he said. Amos lived at his mother's home and his partner of 10 years, with whom he had a daughter in 1990 and a son in 2001, Joseph added. Amos later moved to Nottingham, and in 2002 he was handed a 3-year sentence, the inquest heard. He was arrested in 2006 and had been behind bars ever since, with friends and family visiting him regularly. He was diagnosed with Crohn's disease behind bars in 2018. It came as a shock to the family when their father died of a heart attack in Nigeria, while their mother had also suffered with health problems, Joseph said. Amos had moved around different positions at different prisons and arrived at HMP Oakwood in July 2023. He coordinated and ran a number of prison projects and even earned a degree in social policy, the inquest heard. He trained in the prison gym most days and never raised any concerns with other inmates. The day before his death, Joseph said he spoke to Amos on the phone. They spoke about football and how bad Manchester United were doing. He was in good spirits, the inquest heard. His death came as a shock to the family, as he was loved as a father, son and a friend, Joseph said. The inquest heard how another inmate, Matthew Wright, was on the same wing, told police he witnessed Amos sweating and clutching his chest and struggling to breathe following a visit to the gym. Mr. Wright thought Amos had just worked hard in the gym that morning, Detective Constable Hayley Taylor of Staffordshire Police told the inquest. Amos asked the inmate to sit with him, but his condition deteriorated and prison staff and then the paramedics were called to the prison, said the detective. DC Taylor told the hearing that Mr. Wright comforted Amos, held his hand and told him that everything's going to be alright, until help arrived. The inmate said Amos' lips turned blue, and when paramedics attended, they began CPR before he was taken to New Cross Hospital in Wolverhampton, where he died. His cell was locked down, and a search uncovered no illicit drugs, only painkillers and his prescribed medicine. Injuries were found on his body, but these were consistent with the efforts to revive him, DC Taylor told the court. She agreed nothing untoward had happened to Amos involving anyone else. Christopher Morris, an advanced nurse practitioner based at HMP Oakwood, said that Amos had arrived at the jail on July the 23rd, 2023, following stays at other prisons, and he'd received a comprehensive health screening in line with the guidelines published by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. He had then been diagnosed with Crohn's disease. While at HMP Oakwood, he received treatment for Crohn's under the care of the gastro consultant at New Cross Hospital, said Mr. Morris. 5 days before his collapse, Amos was given antibiotics for a tooth abscess, the court was told. Otherwise, his health was considered good, and his notes contained nothing to suggest he was at high risk of cardiac arrest, said Mr. Morris. The inquest was attended by a number of Amos's family, and one questioned why there was a discrepancy between blood test results recorded at the prison and the hospital. Mr. Morris said that while the prison would routinely send blood results to the hospital did not do likewise. Asked how the medics could conclude he was okay, Mr. Morris said all the results were within acceptable ranges. Mr. Morris confirmed Amos received his Crohn's medication was 14 days late on one occasion. He said it was probably scheduled to be delivered to him, but he said that he could not explain why the delay happened. Asked why the person did not have a care plan in place to treat his Crohn's disease, Mr. Morrison said Crohn's disease did not figure in the NHS long list of conditions which required a care plan. Amos was said to have been managing well with his condition. In a statement read to the inquest, HMP Oakwood custody officer Sophie Evans said Amos was pleasant and really easy to interact with. She said he remained strictly professional while Amos kept himself to himself and was polite, and during his time had raised a number of concerns with her, said Miss Evans. During the morning before his collapse, she had opened his cell door and said hello, and he was already dressed in shorts and a gym top and was ready to train in the gym as usual, said the witness. He seemed to be his normal self, she said. He asked her about a project he was running in the jail. Miss Evans recalled later that Mr. White shouted at her from Amos's cell door to get help, and prison staff were summoned and an ambulance was called. The witness said she asked Amos if he was okay, and he replied yes, although he said he felt a tingling down his left arm. Mr. Wright was holding Amos's hand at the time, she said. Amos was put into the recovery position and an emergency button was pressed, said Miss Evans. Amos was sweating massively. Cold to touch and was turning blue, she said. Amos then started to go into a seizure, and staff started to give him CPR. A defibrillator was brought to the cell, and about 10 minutes later, paramedics arrived and Amos was taken to hospital, the inquest was told. A post-mortem examination concluded Amos died of cardiac arrest contributed to by cardiovascular problems, the examination found. Amos had underlying cardiac disease. Recording a conclusion of natural causes, the area coroner said, "All the evidence I have heard leads me to conduct this was a cardiac-related death," she said. "He died suddenly and unexpectedly," and added that he had no medical history of heart problems. So that's it. That was how Amos died. There were all the reports. That was the hearing. I really appreciate you tuning in and listening to the video. Thank you so much for your support. Please subscribe and check out our next video, which should be coming next week sometime. Thank you. God bless. See you next time.